we really are having it's a collective dark night of the soul. And I think that people are just waking up to a whole nother level of awareness. And it's kind of like it's bittersweet because on one hand, it's like you're becoming so much more aware. And then on the other hand, it's like you're becoming so much more aware, right? Like, I kind of want to know this. All right. Okay. Well, there's a couple different directions I was thinking about today. Um, I'm doing so much writing right now, which feels good because it's like another outlet. And I'm working on uh, clearing core beliefs on a very like structured, like easy to follow path because um, I think that having some sort of certainty or some sort of like list to kind of go back over. Because you know what I notice a lot of times when we do our awareness work, we're pulled into so many different personas. It's like I was just channeling this morning on our manipulator identity, right? And we all have a manipulator identity, right? And this manipulator is not bad or good. It's just creative at getting its needs met or its desires fulfilled with core beliefs that I'm not allowed or that I'm not free. So think about it. Like if we have a base root program of unworthiness or I'm not free or I'm not allowed to be myself, then the persona that will be built out of that as a survival mechanism for you will be, well, let me figure out how I can still do what I want to do, but nobody lets me be myself. So you see how like these personas or these aspects of ourselves are created in our reality because we are here to be creators. And a basic need that is never talked about is the ability to create. Like that's all we are is creators. So now let's think, okay, I'm in a root wound where I am not allowed, not free, not deserving, fill in the blank. And then the personas will literally be built out of that as the ability to adapt to your environment and still be a creator. So as I'm working on all this core belief stuff, I've been like studying my inner manipulator. Like I really haven't been able to use her in this past like year because I stopped basically reacting to physical reality almost altogether. Like I won't let myself go if things are not a flow, I don't go. Like that's like my new motto. If it's not flow, I don't go. Because my old pattern of being in my masculine energy for so long was like a broken flow was almost like a challenge. It was almost like, ooh, how can I communicate this open? How can I force this open? How could I buy this open? How could I convince this open? And it was literally one of the driving forces within my reality for my whole life. When you're told no your whole life, right? Which I believe the word no, as I was channeling this inner version of myself, the word no is the trigger. And the word no comes in many different forms. It's not like when we're kids and it's no, 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 no. It's like now it's wait, it's not yet, it's we don't have the money, you know, it's geographic location. Like no becomes it becomes the block of the flow. And the no will trigger the inner manipulator because the inner manipulator, depending on how badly you want it, it's like a kid climbing up the refrigerator to get the cookies. It's like, how bad do you want this? Or how strong is your desire versus your belief system? So if my belief system is that I've created a whole bunch of people in my reality to reconfirm the word no to me, then this persona is born and this persona is like, I mean, how many times have we thought, okay, what do I need to ask him to get him to say yes? Or what do I need to do here to make this happen? Or it's like we start all this creative energy. And when we do that, we are entering into the imagineering role of the mental world. So we're in our imagination. So our inner manipulator lives and breathes in the simulation as if there was nothing else. That's kind of how you'll know when you're in that essence of yourself, is when you're using your imagination, but it is all about circumstances. It's all about the how, the when, the why, the what. And you're not even really like even thinking that you could pause this and be still and return to your true awareness, because you have these like, they're, I call them alter egos kind of. And the last year, our major concept for our master class, and I'm not sure if you were there, Michelle, I don't think you were there that year, but um it was the alchemy, which is the aspects of me. And when all of your alchemies are integrated, you are the alchemist, which is you can turn, pain into power, or you can turn lead into gold. You become the ultimate force of creation, because it's mind, body, soul, all in unity. That we've got these core belief systems that create these pseudo personality aspects in us. So the reason that these aspects are born, or these personas are born, or these identities are born, okay, or these concepts are born, is because of the root negative belief system that I am not, fill in the blank. So what a really great writing exercise for you guys to do this week, just to kind of like bring more awareness to where you are, what you are, is to literally write I am not, and let yourself do automatic writing. Like, see what actually comes up. Let your subconscious spill out, like, I am not this, I am not that, I am not that. And then elaborate on all of those infected no's, right? And I would also highlight the ones that really trigger you. Because like I said, as we're adults now, the word is not necessarily no. A lot of times it's wait, it's, it's the lack of funds, it's the people around you that are not in coherence or agreement of what you're saying. It's the no becomes like just being an adult. Kids are like, we're always telling them no. And I did a conscious parenting class years ago, and I talked about the power of that word and how it is the greatest wound that a child receives, because they are living in the yes presence of the universe. And there is only yes in the universe. And so when the no's start coming in around 2 years old, year and a half, 2 years old, it's no, 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 because the body's becoming mobile. It's becoming, curious, it's adventurous, it's all kinds of things. And all of a sudden it's no, 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 no. And so this is where like the terrible twos began. And it's not the terrible twos, it's the inner child going up against the matrix of no. And the inner child knows that the universe is only yes. There is only yes. And so this is where the kind of like the conflict begins between the child and the parent. And the child then is going to birth its manipulator. And that is going to be one of your strongest aspects within you. Okay. Like I know you guys have been, I think you might have both been at the house when we watched that movie Split. And it's about the identity disorder, right? And about it's like a serial killer guy who forms all these different identities. But the basics of, you guys out there have not seen it, watch it, because it talks about how this person births all these different aspects of himself to protect the inner child. Like all of them, I think he's got like 25 of them at the end. They're all like in agreement to protect the inner child, but they all have their own wounding, they all have their own personas, they all have their own identities. And so they're literally living out all these different aspects of themselves. And the only difference between that movie and us is that he changes his clothes and he isn't aware of himself when he flips, because it's almost like consciousness or awareness is where the light is, and where the light is where the presence is. So when you are in one aspect of yourself, you are not necessarily aware that there is another choice. because like it's like a flashlight. The light that is your awareness is going to be flowing through whatever you are perceiving, and it's going to get a lot of your focus. And what we've been doing all year in non-duality is learning to break that focus up and be conscious of the persona that is in action, be conscious or aware of the character that's in play. And that's where it's been really a challenge for a lot of us, because we're having to be aware of these identities within us that have their own motivations, their own desires, their own victim energy, their own perpetrator energy, their own hopes, their own dreams. And it could have nothing to do with the true awareness of what you are. Let me go look. Oh, I think he went back to chewing his bone. Okay, I'm still puppy watching. So the concept that I thought would be interesting for us today is because one of the biggest challenges we're going to have with this integration is fully accepting ourselves and not being in resistance of who and what is showing up, because every single aspect of yourself that you've created has done so from a point of survival, right? You're living in a world that is designed to destroy you, because 3D is physical matter, and physical matter is literally, from the second it's conceived or birthed, it's already beginning to decompose. You know what I mean? Like everything in 3D has a life cycle because it's physical matter. Physical matter has its own like time duration. And in non-physical reality, all it is creation, expansion, and ever moving life. It's eternal energy. So when we are birthed into this world that everything is on a short life cycle, and yet we are trying to bring source energy to create life, to create abundance, create freedom. Well, by the time we actually get back to our bodies, there's all these identities that have been created based on your true hopes and desires and wishes. Like it's all coming from a good place. This is why they said the road is paved with good intentions. So every aspect of you, it was literally survival created. Okay. And so when we start to remember that we are creator, and we start to remember that we have this life force energy, this awareness within us, that we could be more powerful without playing the games. How do we let go of the games? Like, how do we stop the gossip? How do we stop venting? How do we stop reacting? How do we stop judging ourselves? How do we stop, right? And what I realized this last year is there's going to be different attempts and different ways of doing this with different aspects of yourself, right? So I've always worked with like the main 3 identities, which is, you know, your higher self, the one that knows everything is okay, that knows it's God, that knows this is just a game, that knows this is virtual reality, that doesn't take any of this personally, that already has everything that you've ever wanted. It's just sitting there waiting in a vibration for you to level up. And then there's the inner child that is perpetually curious, adventurous, unconditionally loving, telepathic, creative, artistic, visionary, imagineer. Your imagineer is your inner child. And then there's the aspects that are birthed out of the separation of higher self, or your I am, and your inner child. So the discord between your higher self and your inner child is where all these aspects are born, because this is your source, right? This is the inner child's true parent. This is the inner child's abundance. This is the inner child's wisdom. This is the inner child's protection. This is the inner child's, you know, like I said, it's the Wi-Fi for the inner child, is the higher self. And so as soon as we start to get this no word literally indoctrinated into every cell, the child is always going to be the child. And so the manipulator is born. Okay, I'm going to let him out. One thing. Okay, buddy. Come on. No. likes to lay in the sun. Okay, so I know none of the teachings this year have really been that much fun, but if we found a way to begin to reparent this manipulator, it would probably speed up your journey the most. Like if you were going to look for one of these aspects, okay, I would say that the biggest one that has had the biggest job in your physical reality is like the main one. Like in that movie, it was like Patricia. She was like the mother, right? Very manipulative, very passive aggressive, very narcissistic, right? And so we all have an inner manipulator that is used when we are presented with any sort of flow block. Okay, any flow block. This is why if you were a child and you got attention being sick, then you will still be getting sick. Okay, now if you didn't get attention from being sick, you might not choose to get sick. All right, so you've got to look at money, time, relationships, and health, all based in manipulation. And so how we can actually just dissolve all of this is you have to find the core wounding that energizes the manipulator. Okay, because the manipulator has no job if you expose the core wound, because then we can jump right into higher self-consciousness and start blasting in a new belief system that's like very transparent and very obvious, and it's always just the opposition. So if I'm not, then it's I am. But see, this completely erases the job of the manipulator. Now, women who, I think that this is why they say that women are the ones who at a core level have emasculated the men. It hasn't really been society, is because women are nature creators. Like we are like, it's so we don't have patience. Okay. And so divine feminine is always in motion. Talk about energy in motion, right? We are always in motion, which means even when our bodies are stopped, the mind is going. And with a man, it's almost like unless they're turned on, they are perfectly fine being extremely idle. Like you ask them, what are you thinking about? Nothing. You know what I mean? Like you're like, how is that possible? I've already thought 8 thoughts just as I asked you that question, because that's the difference in the species. Okay. And that's because divine masculine's role is to be literally in existence through the inspiration of source energy. And if you've noticed, what has finished the divine masculine off in our society is porn and video games, because it gives them the opportunity to channel their creative energy. It gives them opportunity to build something, and they don't have to get off the couch, because that's what they are. They are creative builders, but they have to be inspired. That's why they look at porn, because they have to be inspired. And then once they have watched porn, they are no longer inspired to build. And this is why porn is literally finishing off divine masculine, or the emasculated man. And then we had the video games on, where they can get that aggression, they can get that camaraderie, they can get that military, they can get that build out, and while their body stays completely sedative. And you mix a sedative body with aggressive testosterone, and it's going to immediately turn into estrogen. Okay, and you're going to start to see men get bigger that way. But as far as women go, we are, I would say, the master manipulators, because the word no is literally like divine feminine's entire role as a species is to receive gracefully. Receive. So now add the word no in there. Wait, what? Okay. And so that by nature is its own wounding right there, to being told no. Okay. So a man would be told no, and he would follow orders. He would, and again, this is a man that would be, not completely emasculated or feminine. He would look at it as challenge accepted, and let me figure out a way that I could build a flow. A woman is going to figure out how to get around the block. Okay. How to get what she wants, go to the end, and not necessarily build it, but she's already growing it in her mind. And so like, it's more of like How do I get what I want? And I'm not saying it's bad or good, because if you look up the definition of manipulate, it just means to bend energy. It's not like a negative term. But we use our manipulator in our relationships all the time. All the time. Okay. We use them with money. Okay. And it's more about like shoulds and instant gratification and futuristic. And again, if there is solid no's at the base of the inner child, that is where our addictions come from. That's where we become bad with money or scarcity of money, because it's almost like, well, the manipulator is like, we got to buy this now because we don't know if we're going to have it again, or we can't use this at all just in case. So you've got to look at the word no and how many aspects within you has that built that you're literally facing every day right now. Because as we rise up in our awareness, we begin to take back over the human form. And so inside the human form is all of these personalities that are surrounding the inner child, that are literally protecting her or him. Okay. It is literally just like that movie. If you haven't seen it in a while, rewatch it and be like, oh, yep, I'm that. Now it's a little glorified and it's Hollywood, so it's extreme and it's kind of gory. But if you look at the essence of each character, you will notice that in certain groups, you are different. Okay. In certain groups, you could be the funny one, but then at home, you're not. You could be, I always call it the bougie broke, when you have, you got your paycheck and you're buying everyone dinner and then you're broke for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It's like, we all have a different way that we use our manipulator. And it's really fascinating if you look up your moon sign. Okay. Your moon sign is going to be the personality of your manipulator, because it's your shadow side. It's the shadow side. It's the part of you that is the least conscious out of all of you being the whole zodiac. Okay. It is your moon, which it means it is in your shadow, or it is still in the dark, and it is going to be the unconscious and the subconscious traits of you. So if that's your moon sign, one of the things I had you guys do in quantum fitness was to go research your moon sign and read about the dark side of the moon. And that will give you the pain body personality, or the no personality. Like, who have you built out of you because of no? Right. So for me, I was saying this in one of the other classes, is that for me, one of my greatest traits as a mind manipulator was to friend it. Right. Because if you're friends with your no and you stay really close to it, well, then maybe you could convince it to yes. Okay. And me being my moon sign is Scorpio. So I can be very passionate, and then also when I don't get my way, done, very just matter of fact. I mean, that's the dark side of that persona. So when we are working with awareness, what the ultimate goal here is to build a new persona, because awareness has no personality. It's just life. It's just love. It's just energy. It's like the electricity moving through the walls. It is the source of all creation, but it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a persona. And so persona, I actually wrote it down somewhere, the definition. Okay, so persona is a human being regarded to, a person is a human being regarded to as an individual, which is what we all want to be. We all want to be like this individual in this collective space. So persona is an aspect of that individual. Okay. Now we have lots of personas, and you have like the persona. The best way for you to know the difference is when you have money and when you don't, when you're healthy and when you're sick. Okay. You're going to have very distinct personality shifts in extreme cases of abundance, right? Abundance of health, abundance of time. Like when your time is gone, who are you? Right? When your money is gone, who are you? When your health is gone, who are you? Okay. Very important for you to, with your awareness, begin to study this part of yourself. Otherwise, you will stay a manipulator and you will actually think that you're having a healing journey, because it's so motivated by lack. So motivated by lack. that it literally, if it wasn't in lack, it would have no job and it might rebel on you, which is what I've noticed happened to me. It was like, I just cut the whole job off. I was like, nope, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. And it's almost like that part of me became like a tantrum and suicidal for 3 days. Okay. So the idea, the definition of a concept, which is what Neville Goddard talks about, is self-concept. A concept is a plan or an intention. Like, it's a concept. So if you have a self-concept, then that is your plan, which means your script, your first 7 years is still your plan. You're still going off of those plans, those blueprints, those intentions. All right. Identity, the definition of identity is the fact that I am a beingness, which means that when you identify with lack, when you identify with illness, or you identify as well, and you have the opposite experience, that will throw you into your manipulator. Okay. And what I'm going to be teaching today in the fellowship is actually how to find a core negative belief and then the steps to change it. Because that's going to be one of your greatest tools. But depending on how aware you've become over these last few years, like how truly aware of you while all these other parts of you are playing out. A lot of the time you can't control it. You're just watching yourself react. You're just watching yourself interact. And you're like, why do I keep doing that? That's great, because that means you're increasing awareness. That means that you're here. When you can have awareness and you can have an aspect operating at the same time, well, now it's just choice. Okay. Now you literally have a choice. And I've noticed for me, for like 2 years in a row, I was just kind of watching myself, not sure, like not having enough power within me, not enough authority of my I am yet to really stop it. So I'm just like, here we go again. Like, we're doing this again. We're doing this again. And it was definitely good for the research. It was good for the book, but it's very difficult to live that way, especially when you really truly know who you are and you've spent a lot of time in your imagineering. And then these aspects in your life have also created huge shitstorms that are literally just brewing right now, because we know with manipulation, it's solving a problem with a problem. That to me is what human manipulation is. It's almost like, I'm going to bend this over here. And the only reason that you create a problem out of a problem is because you believe there's a problem. Because your belief trumps everything. So if I have a belief that all grownups tell me no, okay, then I don't need to meet more grownups. My manipulator is going to show up on the scene and she's going to work her magic. We all have a certain level of charisma. We all have a certain level of talent. We all have a certain level of survival. Like some of our manipulators are professional victims. Okay. Have you ever, like, I've noticed this a lot. Like, I'll be at the grocery store or like have to run into like a Walmart or something. And there is a really unhealthy person. And, they're in a scooter and they are so irritated that the world is challenging them. Like, they are mad at the store for not having exactly what they want. And it's almost like you walk by them and you feel like you're in trouble because you did something. Like, their manipulator is literally got like the royal, like, I'm sick, therefore I'm entitled. You guys have all seen this persona. I am ill, therefore you owe me. This is your fault that I am ill. This is the store's fault that I am overweight. This is whatever. It's like, it's the professional fault. And if you get into their Taurus field, it's so strong that you literally feel bad. Like, you feel like you're responsible for that somehow. And you will, if you're not aware, you will give up your parking spot. You will, oh, do you need some help? And that is not necessarily coming from grace. That is coming from their belief that they are entitled to the government's money. They are entitled to this because they are sick and it could never be their fault. Okay. That's one like obvious manipulative role. Okay. Then there is the people pleaser, which I would say that all of us have fallen into the category of more than the entitled sick person. Okay. If we are sick, we usually hide it because God forbid a light worker be sick, then we might be a fraud. You know what I mean? So if we are, we hide that. That might be part of our manipulation. And see, when we are people pleasers, we are not pleasing people from the kindness of our hearts. And this is why you don't get the feedback that you want from people pleasing, because feedback at its core is I'm not allowed to be myself. That is where that particular manipulation aspect comes from, is I'm not allowed to be me. And so I will be what you need me to be so that I could at least be here. So I could at least do what I want to do. If you're happy, then maybe you'll let me happy. Maybe you'll let me be happy. If I please you, then maybe you'll please me. If I heal you, you might help me. If I give to you, you might let me go. You see? And so in my household, that was definitely the road that I took, because you weren't allowed to be sick in my house. God forbid. I mean, you were like, no, you weren't. So what else? A child is the creative force of the universe. And when they are separated from source energy, they will find a way. Even if it's by saying nothing and learning how to be completely invisible. Okay? This is why you love your alone time, because you don't have to manipulate. You don't have to be on guard. You don't have to, which role am I in? Who do I need to speak as? What do I need to conform to? Okay. So it's not really, your manipulator is going to be your moon more than like I'm a Gemini, which that's naturally two-faced if it's unconscious. So, and my rising, or the other one, is Leo. So I can be what anyone needs me to be performer-wise. I can shapeshift. And then the manipulator, it's all kind of like smoke and mirrors, because it's that dark, watery sign. Okay. And again, by the essence of it, it isn't dark or light. It just is. Okay. A scorpion isn't necessarily a dark creature. It just is a species. It's just what it is, and it's how it operates. So I guess what I'm saying in this particular class is that instead of us trying to force the I ams and force this new you to come in, you've got to know two very distinct points for creating your new reality. And it is, who is the biggest threat of me creating a real, joyful, abundant, free life, which is your manipulator, who has a core belief that you're not free, you're not safe, you're not abundant, and has built a whole persona out of that nobody really knows about. It's the, how do I get the yes out of the no you? Okay, for the comment there. And then you have the real you that is yes, it's everything. It's already done. There's no convincing anyone. There's no talking anybody into anything. It's like everything's got your name on it. So that's you, the real you, that without the separation. And then you've got the separated you, the inner child, who has built these personas within herself or himself, because that's all we do is pretend. As a child, we're pretending. And we're supposed to be creating worlds out of ourselves as inner children, but instead we build aspects to survive the world. But because the root that is vibrating with law of attraction is I am not, then all your attempts, they just get you through one loop, and then you start all over, because the manipulation, there's always a problem at the center. And therefore, because you don't actually fix anything in physical reality, you always return to the problem. But you see, you have the experience of maybe overcoming. You have the experience of getting your way. You have the experience of, winning or having that. But then that's where all the failure is. That's where all the, oh, remember, you're not allowed. Remember, you're not good enough. Remember, okay? So more aspects of manipulators: professional, victim, people pleaser. Then you have the perfectionist, okay? And the perfectionist will literally kill and destroy their own body for perfection. But within perfection also lies procrastination, because they're living the trauma of the failure wound, and that is feeding their perfectionism. Okay. And that like kind of tears your consciousness apart. And so one part of you is exhausted, overwhelmed, and idle, and the other part of you is literally wearing this mask of perfection, or at least that's the end goal, right? Like, I'm not going to stop until it's perfect. I'm not going to stop until everybody loves me. I'm not going to stop until I'm the best. And it's coming from, I'm not allowed to be me, because you at your base point is perfect as creation can be, because you're infinite potential. Okay. So what I would recommend, especially for non-duality, like moving in, because your awareness is like ready to drop in, is you sit with and you study your inner manipulator. And you're gonna maybe not know exactly who you're, if yours is more of bled through all those other ones, and there's so many more. Okay. You could have the aloof, the aloof manipulator that literally just sits by the wayside and lets everybody else take care of them, doesn't really offer anything, but they're included. Okay. You probably have family members like this. And then you've got the control freak, the one that has to control all the plans, manipulate all the plans. Like, we're going to be here at 10 o'clock. We're going to be here at 2 o'clock. And then the aloof one is like, great, I don't have to do anything. So you can see how we have relationships in reality. And a lot of the times our manipulator is just having relationships with other types of manipulators. It's like, how do we weave? Like, I've always said, my best friends in the whole world, I'm looking at a couple of them right here, are literally the ones that my ego plays well with. Because my soul loves everyone, or my spirit loves everyone. Like, I don't have an enemy in the world. But there are certain egos that I wouldn't like, hey, you want to go hang out? Right? There's certain egos on this planet that are just not my bag. Like, I would never like have anything in common with the entitled victim. Only because that is so outside of my reality that I would not have any conversation. Okay. And I'd probably be like, well, how can I help you? I'd fall into that spell of that, because the manipulator is the magician. It is the one that's casting spells. It's the one that's using communication and leverage. It's using all of these multifaceted, like, narcissistic tools, because it is trying to get the inner child to what it wants. All right. It's trying to get the inner child to what it is asking for, but it doesn't understand that it is using life force energy. It is using money. It's using resources. It's using people to literally go out into the world and figure things out. And it will always come back to the wounded child's no, because at the end of the day, someone is going to end up telling that child no. And it just builds a stronger manipulator and a stronger manipulator and a stronger, until the humanity starts to disappear. And now we have sociopaths, and we have the, really scary narcissist, because now it's all about the game. It's all about getting what you want. And I know, like, in my classes, we are removed from that behavior somewhat, because we've been working on our awareness for years now. So, but we can remember back where we were literally either chasing yes, or we were settling for what yes we could get. We were settling for the breadcrumbs of yes, because the inner child is yes. You guys remember? Oh, Amy, you were in Miami, right? Like, my first world tour. Were you in Miami? My first world tour? Okay. That was the yes tour. Like, we went back to like Atlantean ruins, and we were in this beautiful rose quartz room that was like stairs. It was all rose quartz, and literally channeled the entire weekend that there is only yes in the universe, and how we were going to give our inner child that truth of it's yes. Okay. There is no. But again, if there is no, your manipulator is out of a job. And so when your ego starts to integrate, a lot of the times, this is the one that starts to sabotage a lot of your new path that you're creating here, because it's still trying to manipulate its way It's almost like, well, if I can't help you, then I'm going to stop you, because it's negative in nature, because it was built out of a lie, and it was built out of a construct of lack of source energy. It was trying to get to source energy. And so now that you're just saying, like, it's almost like having a new CEO come in, and there's a manager that's worked really hard for a company for years and just keeps taking it to the toilet, and so new management comes in and says, we're changing everything. And you're out of a job. Okay. What do you think that aspect that is like in nature all about creative manipulation, what do you think, how is it going to respond to this new I am sheriff in town that's now trying to build rapport with the inner child, right? And so anything that is not life force energy is mortal and trying to survive. So these aspects of us that we built without our source energy truly connected to the I am and our inner child, all these pseudo personalities that we have literally don't believe in source energy, nor do they want to integrate in. And so they will be the one that starts turning around and manipulating this relationship. This is where, like, you're doing your I ams, you're staying present, you're not gossiping anymore, you're not venting anymore, you're not reacting anymore, and all of a sudden there are still blocks in the flow because it's not going the way your manipulator wants it to go. And I mean, like, I have seriously dealt with that, because as a child, like, I built my whole life on manipulation. And no, it wasn't all bad. It was survival. Get people what they need, because then they might take care of me. Give everybody what they need so they might love me. You know, help everyone with their problems so they won't see mine. I mean, that's honest. You know, so we've got to examine thoroughly, how does my manipulator work here? And a lot of the times is like, I'll say to one of my clients, I'll say, well, just, you know, ask so-and-so if it's okay if you do this. Oh, well, I already have an assumption of what this person is going to think of something that they want or need. And so now they're trying to figure out a way to present what it is they want or need to their partner without even first going, well, I don't know, I'm changed, maybe my partner will show up differently. Their aspect of manipulation is, how am I going to get what I want now that I want this? Shows up. And oh no, like before, oh, that he would never go for it, she would never go for this, they wouldn't be okay with this, see, or I don't want them a part of this because of this, they're not going to like this. And so they already have that assumption going, which is their self-concept. So what we all have to do is we all have to take stock and literally accept the fact that we build our entire life off of the word no, because that's what we were taught. No, you can't have, you can't do, you can't say, you can't feel. Okay. And so we're like, well, like a kid, watch me. Right. And then a child starts to get success with it. Well, hello, that is going to grow it. Okay. Now, if the child gets in trouble for the first stage of manipulation, it will autocorrect, and it will become a different version of a manipulation. It's almost like it's like practicing, like, which way is going to give me what I want. It's like, you know, kids want attention, and if they don't get it from positive, they will get it from negative. That's manipulation. Children need two things. Their love language is so simple. I want to share who I am, and I want you to share who you are with me, number one. And touch, physical touch. Okay, touch, taste, feel, like tactile, like I exist, this is real, I'm real, this is what I have. Those are the two things that the inner child literally feels like they die without those two things. Okay, and think about what happens is, over the years, we don't want anyone to touch us. Okay, or if we do, it's got to be this specific way, or sometimes it's got to be painful, you know, because that registers as some sort of response for me, you know. And this what it is the inner child is constantly saying, I want to be myself, I want to be real, I want to be here, I want to explore, I want to adventure, I want to be curious, I want to do art, I want to play, I want attention. And the world is like, no. So life finds a way. It's like Jurassic Park. Like, you know, the species will shift from feminine to masculine. And so what women do is when the world, see, when we're like, I'm divine feminine, yay, all I have to do while I'm here is receive gracefully. And then receiving begins to hurt you because your purity is taken away, or you're touched inappropriately, or what you're receiving you don't want, and then you're not grateful. You see, so this is where divine feminine stops receiving. It's not safe for me to receive. So, well, I still want to be all the things that I am. And so if I'm not safe to receive, then I will just go get. And this is when divine feminine will flip into her masculinity, and she will begin to pursue and chase and, you know, go out and take over the world however she does, from the attempt of, it isn't safe for me to receive what the universe is bringing me because it's a lot of pain. So I will go be picky with what I want. But if I have a core wound that it isn't safe for me to be received, then even in my pursuits and my masculine energy, it's still not going to be safe. Because ultimately, and this is why aspects are so dangerous, is because they are built out of pain. They are built out of lack. They are built out of suffering. And therefore, that's all they are. There's no humanity in them. There's no, they're a program, right? It's just like fire. Like fire isn't good or bad, but once it starts, it's there. And it can be used to warm your food or destroy you. And so when these aspects are born from lack, or the word no, or someone hurt you, well, now it's, they see, this is where all aspects live in generalities. This is where racism comes. This is where injustice comes. Now everybody has to fit into this one category to protect the inner child. And so now what we've done is we're introducing higher self in here, who's like, okay, new sheriff in town. We're all love. We're not the bullshit light and love. We're real love. And we are all ultimate abundance, and we are prosperity. And we've come to reparent this inner child and remind her through practice, prepare, play, through inner stillness, through connection, through communication that we're having with her. We're here to basically get her to see, him to see and remember who they are, so we can integrate into the body. So this new parent can like come and move in, and then the inner child and the higher self become the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit all together. Okay. But it's like, there's so many aspects in the house that it's like all hell starts to break loose. And we've talked about this a lot this year. But when we look at it like, okay, let's hone in and find the one. Let's find the one that is gatekeeping the word no. And you also have to analyze, what was I told no for the most as a kid? What did I want the most as a kid that I didn't get? What was taken from me that I did need? Because these are going to be what your root belief systems are built out of. Okay. And if you're not letting yourself react and respond out in the world anymore, that inner manipulator is going to get your body sick. This is the echo effect. This is like all of a sudden the aspect of you doesn't have a job. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to build a persona out of the higher self. Okay. Then now we can be on the same playing field, because see, higher self doesn't ever integrate into 3D. It never gets into the bullshit. It never gets into the drama. It doesn't even resonate or like comprehend the things that we do here in human form to survive. It's like, there's no real understanding of. This is why when you channel higher beings, they're always like, just do this. Because they don't know what it's like to be embodied. They don't know what lack is. And yes, they have the right formulas, but it's coming from almost like, okay, you be here and try to raise kids and pay bills. You know, they don't have an identification of the contrast of struggle, because all they are is life force energy. So just put some life force energy in it, and now you're abundant. Now you're abundant in energy. But if your whole personality was built to get somewhere or to be something or to have something, that you're going to feel like your whole self is falling apart, depending on the gatekeeping of the no personality. So when we build this persona out of higher self, it's going to be like, okay, so what is her personality? If you spend time with your higher self, who is she? Who is he? Like, what do they like? And how do you know what they like? Well, imagine all your needs are met. What do they eat? If they could have all the food in the world. Where do they go if they could go anywhere? What would they have if they had everything? See, and you actually have to study infinite abundance and what is her personality in infinite abundance. Because see, a lot of your personality is built in lack. So now you've got to build a persona out of abundance. And who is this person? Like, I remember having the thought, what am I going to do all day? If all my problems are solved and I have everything, isn't that going to get boring? I mean, I literally had that thought because I've lived in high level fight or flight my whole life of surviving. There is some kind of weird hormonal addiction to that reality that goes unfed for a while when you're doing this transition. And this is why so many people don't make it through. It isn't like as simple as just, okay, reparent the inner child, integrate, take over the body. It's all good. You turn into light, turn into superhero. No, it's like you got to fight all these villains and we can't fight. See, that's the problem is that there's no more fight. The only ammunition we've got left is love. That's it. It's all we've got access to. It's all we're going to have because 5D is just unity consciousness, which means one personality, right? One, not 10. Okay. Like, and we did a lot of this in quantum fitness, but if you guys weren't in that, then this is kind of like new for you. So when you build your persona for your higher self, you want to take as much time studying her or him as you do your manipulator, because this is going to be your two greatest ends of the spectrum. Your greatest, your superhero and your villain and your super villain. Okay. This is your superhero and you don't know how her body works yet. You don't know what her potential is. You don't have her PIN code for her bank account yet. And then there's the super villain who's literally had full running over your life, even if you're not a villain. You know what I mean? You're not a villain. You're just a manipulator. Okay. Every one of us is, and this is the challenge. This is the challenge. And what I realized is when I just had awareness of I am, and then I'm trying to bring that energy of I am into this very detailed character that's got personalities on top of personalities, depend on what situation she's in. It's like all this is a ghost. It's like, is this God energy? Like, what is this? So actually creating a persona exactly the same way you did in lack, you created a persona in abundance. Okay. Because now we're on physical reality's playing field. And now we know what we need to do to shift the manipulator. But if higher self always stays in the I am that your like inner child can't reach and can't get to, because here's the thing, when you build a persona of higher self, the inner child can act like her. This is the whole thing, act as if. So then what you can do is you can start to embody her persona, his persona, and walk around in that different energy, and the inner child will now believe in higher power only because she's pretending, feeling that your physiology changes, your clothes should change. I mean, depending. I mean, if you're already like dressed as your higher self, great. Okay. But this is where a lot of the alchemy work that I'm doing in the 90-day boot camp is when you literally start to walk in his shoes and method act that beingness. So then when that manipulator does show up, it's like there's also the parent now that is embodied and has real personality, real conversations, right? She's really doing things in physical reality. She's really having things in physical reality. And so now it's just a matter of recognizing it and integrating it with love. And so this aspect, the manipulator will shift into creator because it is creative. It's just destroying your life instead of correcting your life, not because it's not good at what it does, but see, here's the thing. It's running a program of lack. And so it will always end up in lack, no matter what it experiences on the journey. right? Like, so I did a bunch of like script training for my boot camp, like how to write a proper script, how to create each character. And it's funny because it's like when you start reading script writing, it's all about the middle villain. Like, what is their obstacle? What is their challenge? What do they fall into? It's every script is like the person starts off and then they fall from grace. And then what is their rise up story? Like everyone, I was like trying to find one that was just happily ever after. It didn't exist because nobody would watch it. There was no contrast. Okay. So it's good for us to start right in the middle where our, like, you know, our fall from grace is. And then we build her all the steps. She has to build courage. She has to build confidence. She has to build self-esteem. And so these are all the things that we're going to be building in this new persona. And so it's not like we're just ignoring our entire lives. We're taking the pain and we're building the opposition out of it, because it's still the same, but it's just the yin and yang of it. And now the personality is just as strong as the manipulator. Okay. It's going to be way stronger once the authority starts to take in. So see, and that's the thing, is once inner child starts to become the authority of the manipulator because she's embodying higher self, game over. Okay. So I mean, there's only a couple of you guys on live right now. Any questions on this? Is this like making sense? Yeah. Anybody got questions? Well, okay. So we don't have to go real deep today, but this is something that I would highly recommend if you really want to get past your wall or what is blocking your flow right now. Then I would start with really analyzing the manipulator and why. Because a lot of it you think is just your personality, but if you've been told no your whole life, then your whole personality was built out of no, trying to get yes. Because the inner child is a creator, and she will create with bad energy. She will create with good energy. She will create with yes, no, you know, and so it feeds you, it fuels you, you identify with it. It's a construct. So like when teachers like Neville Goddard talk about identity or personal reality, it's like they really haven't gone deep into the psyche of the levels of aspects we have to deal with, you know, because it's like, what's his name? Joe Dispenza will say, oh, your personality builds your personal reality. Well, which one? All right. Neville Goddard's like, just change your self-concept. What's the basis? I don't know what God is. I don't know how God walks around. That's why watching that show Chosen was good, because I could pick up some character traits from Jesus. Like that's the muse that I would like to, you know, but I mean, I didn't grow up religion. I didn't know the person, which is probably better because I probably would have had a distorted version of that. But when you are defining what your God personality is through the spectrum of inner child, well, what does that look like? What do you do with your day? How are you showing up? Because if you get to the end of the day and you literally had to manipulate your way there, or you had to dodge and weave, or you had to remain invisible, or you had conflict, then you are not practicing that God essence in you, and it's only because you haven't built the persona yet. So finding your inner manipulator and studying them. And how you study them is look at all of the things that are no in your life right now. What is a no? What is a hard no? Or what is potential no? Or what's been no? That part of you, law of assumption, will be suiting up even before you can think about it. Like, I'm ready. And that they're living your day. So I want to, before I close today, because I'm not going to do a real long class, but I want to give you, I had this like 4 emails yesterday, is what is the difference between a 3D intuition and a 5D intuition? And I think this is really important because this is going to be able to help you with whether your higher self is in action or your manipulator is in action, because they're going to feel very similar. Your manipulator is going to be your most powerful persona. Your most powerful persona is going to be your manipulator. And the way you do it could be being a nun, could be a monk. You know, it's like, it doesn't mean that you're bad. It means that you are surviving and you are figuring out how to get your way somehow, some way. And that's built personality. Okay. So The way that you know it is it's very distinct. Okay, so 3D intuition, that it actually could be coming from source, and it will always start with an idea, an inspiration, okay, a potential solution, a vision, and it will immediately fill your body with some sort of excitement or hope or yes or maybe, okay, and it's going to fill your body like instantly. Now 3D intuition is going to say go now and start to put this together, right? Let's make some calls. Let's tell somebody what we're doing here. Let's see if we can get the money. Let's go drive over there. Da, 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 da. It's immediate action on 3D. And it might be you go to fill the body with excitement and light, and then you realize that you're in lack and you don't have what you need. And the manipulator's already using imagination to figure out how to get what you need or do what you need to do or what you're going to say because you really want to experience what you just thought of. And so now the manipulator is using 3D, which is circumstantial imagination, which means you're pulling your imagination from circumstances. That's 3D intuition. And you're going, what can I do? How can I say this? Blah, 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 blah. All right. It's an immediate, like, gonna want your body to move instantly. Go ahead in 3D and like make it happen. Or let's go write up this idea right now and then see what our options are to make this happen. It's like, let me jump right into circumstances and start manipulating energy. That is going to be your intention. Okay. 5D intuition is same rush. Okay. Except higher self is going to say, we need to build the fundamental energy source so that this will come to us. We do not move. We do not speak. We do not talk about it. We might do some research. We might put more pieces together, but we do not take action, because when you get an idea, okay, then you've got to, that's the seed. It's like I kept taking the seed out to the world, like, look at my seed. Everybody want to help me with this seed? Let's all do this seed, everybody. Let's go. Just walking around with a seed that hadn't even sprouted nothing yet. And my higher self's like, no, you take that seed, that desire, that idea, that inspiration, that vision, and you plant it way down deep as you can into the darkness, which is in your silence, and you let it germinate in your body, and you think about it, and you feel it, and you visualize yourself doing it, and you visualize the people, the places, the things, but you take no physical action in 3D. And when it is done properly, the idea will come to you, which means there won't be a lot of physical action at all, except being maybe nudged to the left or the right, or let me show up here at this time. Your bridge of incidents will unfold, but it should only feel literally like less than 10% of your whole action points. You're not calling, you're not manipulating, you're nothing. You're literally letting people now come to you and convince you of this idea. That's 5D intuition. Now you can see where the manipulator is going to have a really difficult time in your life. Because if that's where we are heading as a collective, see, it's like God said there would be, there would be light and there was light, which is instant manifestation. But see, we have all these aspects in the way that are trying to figure out how to get you light, how to buy you light, how to create light, how to steal light, how to think light. Okay. And instead of just letting the state of being build a torus around you, and the telepathic nature of your heart, once the seed has been planted, will begin to communicate with people, places, and things to line up the rendezvous point for your manifestation to reveal to you. Which means that it's going to be on the seed's timing. And depending on how big the seed is, if it's going to require 100,000 people to be involved with it, well, then who knows, that might take a little bit longer than just desiring a free coffee in the morning. So this is where like my whole world started falling apart, is because I'm just a visionary. I'll get an idea and I'll contemplate it and I'll think about it, but it immediately go, oh, this person one. I want to be this person with this. I want this person to be involved. Oh, I want to go here. So I'm calling this person. I'm looking at funds. I'm looking at transferring stuff. And I'm already in motion in that masculine assertion of building, which was never my job, ever. And of course, it would always, the bottom would fall out because I was literally taking my seed into physical reality with no roots, no foundation, no source of abundance connected to it, no life in it. It was just, I was the life and I had the seed and I was trying to put all my life into the seed and then convince other people, look at my seed. It got me basically back to ground zero. And so now it's like, I'll get an idea and I might not even take action for weeks on any of it because it's not ready. And then my manipulator literally has a field day because it's getting all of these ideas. It's getting all of this downloads. Oh, I should do this. I should call it. And literally I'm having to say, it's not ready yet. Okay. And it was interesting because as I was processing that wound, and this is your time wound, guys, time wound right here, because your manipulator literally prides itself on time. How fast can I get this? How fast can we do this? And when you don't have time, it's a very big trigger. It reminds you of how much lack you have. When you don't have time, all your lack stories start coming up. I'm running out of time. I don't have enough time. I have too much time because I have no money. You see, so your time wound is literally like part of your manipulator. And we've got to let go of the time. We've got to let go of the how. We've got to let go of the when. And the manipulator's entire personality construct is how and when. That is what the inner manipulator's personality is built out of: how and when, and what do we need to do to get this inner child, whatever it is she wants or he wants now, right? And so then 5D's like, great idea. Let's build it in the laboratory. Let's imagineer it. Let's live it. Let's pretend it. Let's walk around as it, but let's keep it in the dark so it can fully germinate and it can grow roots. And then it will take care of you forever because it's alive now. That would be like this. It would sound crazy, but if I got pregnant and I just kept trying to take the baby out, look, I got a baby in here. But see, nobody would know I was pregnant for 3 months. And so you see what I mean? So it's like nature is teaching us how manifestation works all the time with different life cycles of different manifestations. And so when we're on a time crunch and we need it right now, well, I can guarantee you your manipulator is triggered as F, right? Because how do I get what she needs now? Or what can I do right now? Okay. So the how and the when is the manipulator personality. Okay. And the higher self persona is everything is in its divine timing. And so while we're waiting for it to germinate, we're practicing, we're preparing, we're playing, we're posturing. And so that's what the 4 P's are built out of, but you've got to have the persona in order to posture. So I think it would be really fun. I mean, it's not fun, but you've got no other choice at this point, is to dive into your inner manipulator, and it's based on how and when. And what you've done, I would literally start looking at your track record, because you might think you are the kindest, sweetest, most loving person in the world, because your manipulator might be kind and sweet and loving, but it's managing the how and the when. And that is why humans can't create reality, because we've never been in charge of the how or the when, ever. That's never been in our jurisdiction, ever. And the more masculine a woman becomes, the more she has to control circumstances, the more she has to control when and how. And her whole life falls apart if she's not able to do what she needs, because she feels like she's not going to get where she needs to be if she is in control of the how and the when and the why and the what. See, our job is, what do I want and why do I want it? Okay. So that's the inner child question. The parent should be asking the inner child, what do you want and why do you want it? A lot of times if you ask why, you'll see it's lack. And so then you can change the energy of it. Okay. Or if it's a pure desire of, well, because I am this card, so I am needs to drive this car because this is the car she is. Okay. That is not you don't need the car. It just represents who you are as a spirit. Well, then you're probably going to get that car. But if you need it because, well, I can't go fast enough in life and this car just goes fast and this car gets great gas mileage because I have a lack program with money. You see, so you want to investigate your whys. Why do I want it? Okay. And so your how and your when is governed by the aspect of your manipulator. And I would look up your moon sign and study that a little bit if you want. If not, don't worry about it. Create your persona. And then it's basically battle of the custody. So it's like mom and dad fighting over inner child, but it's not going to be a fight from higher self. It's just going to be presence. It's going to be presence. It's going to be presence, which means there has been many days where my new persona has literally had to stop the body doing what it wants to do, because that's going to take us away from proper germination. I've had to hold my own breath to get my body to submit to me. I mean, like there's been all kinds of tricks that I'm going to give this boot camp, because your body literally, even if it's sick, you guys, if your body is sick, it's part of your manipulation, 100%. The body it's serving the body somehow. It's serving the manipulator somehow to be sick. Okay. If your body can't lose weight, that's part of your manipulation. Now it's to keep you out of failing by failing every day. Isn't that crazy logic? But that's a sociopath. Like, I know if we just fail every day, then we won't feel like a failure. Because if we don't try, then we don't need courage. I mean, you can literally unpack these personality traits and be like, what the heck? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so then your persona on higher self, well, that needs to be investigated the same way, but that's going to be coming from like a future memory. So let's do this for a minute. Let's all just close your eyes and let's go to something that you really want to create in your reality that isn't necessarily manifested yet, but you know you can have it. It's not like something that feels real far-fetched, just something you want to create. You know you can have it. And so just close your eyes and just go to where it is, okay? And embody it, which means become the first person of it and smell it, touch it, feel it, taste it, hug it, see it, drive it, use it. Just take a moment and actually have a little experience as if you already have this. Okay, awesome. And because it didn't feel so far out of your belief systems, it was probably pretty easy to embody, wasn't it? It's like pretty easy to embody. It's like second nature. Okay. Now let's go into the past and let's have a memory. Let's take a good one. Go find a happy memory and go embody that, which means go back, embody that and replay it in first person. Try to notice everything you can notice about it. Look around through the eyes of the source and see, whoa, I didn't see that before, maybe. Or I really like this memory. This is nice. Good. Now let me ask you, which of those two felt more real? Karen, which one felt more real to you?
The second one.
The second one, the past? Okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody have the future one feel more real? Dermot? Your future one felt more real? Okay. So here's the thing. Both of those are real. And see, you can go into your past and you can recall something, okay, because you had an entire experience around it. But when you go into your future and have experience, that is your experience too, or you couldn't have got there. You only have your Akashic records. You only have your reality. You only have all the things that you could ever want, and they all belong to you. That's why you could go there instantly. That's why you didn't need a passcode to get there. You didn't need permission. You didn't need money to get to that new thought, did you? You didn't need anything except your imagination to get to that futuristic thought, because it's yours. See, the universe here is operating off free will. And so you have free will to everything that is yours. If it wasn't something for you, you wouldn't have been able to get your imagination into it. This is important, because everything that you imagine for yourself that you desire is already yours, and higher self is the one that is saying, we're already living this. Okay. So if the old one feels more real, it is just because you're not doing enough imagineering yet. Because for me now, like when I go to the imagination, it just feels so much more real than the past. I've done a lot of time travel on the past too to change certain things, but even the good memories are like, they're there and they're neutral. Notice how both of these were kind of neutral. See, like when you imagine something that you know you can have, it's more neutral. When you imagine something that you can't have yet, there's energy attached to it. And the manipulator's like, how do we get it? It's your 3D middleman. Okay. Now, here's a last point. If your manipulator is ruining your manifestations, then you also have a belief that something is always in the way. Someone's always in the way. So you're going to always have like a third person in your relationship. You always have like someone who tears your relationships apart. You're always like, there's always a third party somewhere in your story. If you have a belief that something's always in the way, you'll create, an affair. You'll create an illness that stops you from going somewhere. So you've got to pay attention to how literal the universe is playing out your storyline, right? So like mine, once I really dove into it, is my dad left my mom for her best friend. Okay. And I would like listen for hours, like 3 years old, hearing my mom talk about betrayal and all this stuff. And so then it was like, women are betraying, and then I would always attract the friend that was trying to hook up with my husband, right? Like I just attracted that because that was downloaded as my origin story. Your origin story has to change if you're ever going to have a different life, because the manipulator will always get you to believe that that story doesn't exist anymore because we aren't doing that anymore. But your manifestations prove that you always start back at ground zero. And so this is why we have to bring the new persona in. Okay. Because now it's like superhero and villains, and it's a civil war for the inner child. All right. So I'll leave you with that. So take some stock this week on who is my manipulator. And if you don't know who she is, how and when. She is the micromanager, and she's very clever. He's very clever, like so much more sophisticated. The IQ is outrageous because it's based in your survival. So the more you have to survive, the more intuitive your manipulator will be. Okay. And then opposite side of that, the spectrum of, okay, well, who am I with all of my needs met? Who am I with all the money in the world? Who am I with perfect health? Who am I with the perfect body? Who am I with the perfect relationships? Okay, what does she wear? What does she eat? Where does she go? What does she do? Good. Now I'm going to write out a little script about her. I'm going to write her backstory. I'm going to think about her fashion or his fashion, where they would go. And then all of a sudden you start to move in physical reality and you'd be like, well, she wouldn't go here. So you stop going there. Well, she wouldn't say that. So you stop saying that. And then now your whole world is it's thought, word, deed, which is the triangle, or it is done. Because as soon as you act out as if, well, now you're behaving like who you really are. And behavior is basically the evidence of your subconscious mind manifested. Your behavior is your subconscious mind manifested, because your behaving. You look at that word be, it's because, right? It's a state. Being is like the state that you are in. So your behavior, automatic behavior, is going to tell you what your subconscious mind believes you about yourself. If you're going to be in the fellowship class, we're going to rip apart that root wound today, and we're going to unpack it. So literally, we can transition the manipulator out of a job, because we're going to go right to the problem and shift it with the different command direct from higher self. So to me, finding your root wound is like getting full custody of the kid. You're not going to have to fight over it. All right. Which means there is no negotiation. I have full custody. I found the root wound. Now there is no manipulator, because if you pull the root wound, there won't be a manipulator, because you will believe that everything is yours. And now you're just practicing, preparing, and playing because you know everything is yours. And now we turn the whole world of no into the world of yes. All right. So happy hunting. I hope you take time to do this. Amy, I know you've got time this week, right? You have a little vacay, and enjoy it, because this is still you. And there, one thing that when I really found manipulator, I really, first of all, I forgave myself for being that far in the no world that I had to create a whole, personality out of it. But also really like thanked it, because it really did build me the best life that I could have in 3D from where I was in my awareness. You know what I mean? Like, it really did give us the best life that we possibly could have created without our higher self. So it's not bad, it's not good, but it's just, it will ruin your manifestations, okay, every time. So what we want to do is we want to just throw away the healing journey, throw away all the inner child work, and find out who the problem is. It's like the cause and the effect. Okay. So we want to become the cause and the effect here, because we always are, but we want the cause to be originated from the word yes, not the word no. Okay. All right. Love you guys. And some of you, I'll see you around 1 o'clock.